Welcome to the webinar, SEO Mastery, your blueprint to achieve new growth in organic search. I'm Craig Smith, the founder and CEO of Trinity Insight, and really looking forward to talking about SEO today, discussing what's moving the needle, what you should be concerned with in the new economy, factoring in mobile penetration and all the other developments with social, etc. This presentation is going to be a framework, something you can go back to your office, to your business, put into action, talk to your marketing team, talk to your technology folks, and really get again, a framework for driving growth. So let's get to it. From an agenda perspective, we'll start out with the latest SEO developments, what's going on in the industry. We're going to talk about where you should be focusing your energy, also the technical piece, which is critical in SEO, understanding what are the really important technical nuances within your platform or your content management system. We also want to identify pitfalls, things that you're going to avoid, and then lastly, the daily routine. What's your typical day going to look like in terms of what things you need to execute in organic search to do your best? Real quick about me, I have about 20 years of experience in digital and e-commerce. I started my career after business school as a corporate strategist at Cigna Corporation and eBay Enterprise before starting Trinity, and I'm really passionate about new ways in which brands can leverage technology to gain a competitive advantage. And about Trinity, what we are in a nutshell is an optimization agency. We believe every company can grow faster with data, and we help our partners in achieving this goal. SEO is a core practice, one of our oldest practices in our business, and we work with a lot of large brands across the country and the globe. Now, let's talk about the latest developments in SEO. Here are the 5 key trends that really should be considered. First is the impact of user experience. With Google Chrome and Google Analytics, Google now has a subset of data that's unparalleled. And because of that, they can see how effective web pages are in engaging consumers or users and the actions they take on these sites. And because of that, they've somewhat blurred algorithmically the kind of correlation between user experience and organic search. These used to be 2 separate channels, but now when you have more engagement on a page, when your bounce rate goes down, when your site becomes faster, when you have more dwell time and clicks that are happening on your pages, Google is rewarding you in organic search. So this impact is critical, in which you need to monitor how your pages are doing and try to make user experience improvements as much as you would in just writing more content. The next development that's really important is HTTPS, the secure protocol online, and its impact on organic search. Too many sites are still not taking advantage of this protocol. They're not taking advantage of how Google is rewarding sites who leverage HTTPS in their index. And it's been said publicly that Google uses this information to break ties when companies are vying for the same keyword. The next trend you want to consider is content and topical relevance. Just considering the volume of content that's published each day, you really need to carve out these micro niches within your architecture to give yourself the best opportunity to rank. And doing so, what we found, and there's data out there that in the industry, that really it's about depth and quality, that the more you write, if you have, let's say, for example, one 2,000 word piece versus 20 100 word pieces online, from an aggregate standpoint in terms of ranking keywords, that larger piece almost always wins. The next development that needs to be front and center is brand amplification, going out into your niche and creating and amplifying your message within both your own audience and other folks' audiences. This way you get those signals that you are legitimate, that you are growing in your category. And for any mid-market brand, this is a must. Some of the larger brands out in the retail category and the software category might not need to do this type of work because it's already being executed by just kind of the organic PR of the firm. But if you don't have this types of volume and you're not getting these types of media mentions going on, it's really important to amplify your brand. And then the last development that I would say is a trend is foundational elements are still true. Title tags, meta descriptions, header tags, indexation, crawlability, links, and the anchor text corresponding to those links, all those things still matter and still really are key components to getting your foundational house in order when it comes to SEO and things that you'll want to focus on as you move forward in your improvement efforts. Now, we talked about user experience. Really, again, this is all about rankings being tied to engagement metrics. The part of a continued shift of Google away from backlinks. Now, backlinks are still important, but they're not, I would say, in my professional opinion, as important as they were 5 to 7 years ago. What you want to look in with your user experience is the engagement with your users, time on site, scrolling activity, pages per visit. And really what Google is trying to define and understand is this website giving the user what they are seeking? And if you are, hypothetically, they will reward you algorithmically. And again, this data is being captured from within Chrome and within Google Analytics. Security, again, this is the HTTPS protocol. We talked about it a little bit before. The benefit is that you get this non-message that won't render on your form pages front and center from a conversion perspective, but there is a site-wide benefit in which Google will reward you algorithmically in situations where you are quote-unquote in a tie, and Google engineers have stated this openly. And it becomes even more paramount if you're an e-commerce brand. It really should be something that's on your radar, and if not on your immediate roadmap. Performance is also really important, and partner experiments at Trinity are showing increased SEO performance directly in parallel with site speed optimizations. Things that you want to consider and things that you want to include are content delivery network inclusion, caching fixes, as well as other modifications. And in doing so, just as a live case example, drove a nearly 18% increase in a market with no seasonality impact. So we're real big believers that if you have an active SEO program, you really need to have an active speed and optimization program with your overall code structure as well as your backend servers. Content. Now, content is obviously a key pillar of SEO, and it really is always the most vital aspect. And what I tell folks is that every brand needs to be a publisher, and quality needs to be at the core. How do you educate at all layers, and how do you differentiate from your competition? What is your voice? And how do you identify what you want to speak on? All of these things are something that should be kind of broken down in almost like an assembly-like fashion in your organization, using a project management type tool in which editorial staff and business leaders really can communicate and ensure that you're putting out the best foot forward from a content standpoint. Brand activity, we talked about it before. I like to call this amplifications, and this is really the social signals in the market that Google sees to know that you are real. Content that is trusted in social is really given a lot of weight algorithmically. So there is some correlation that we're seeing with social posts that are boosted, that get a lot of interactivity with sharing, and also the overall Google ranking of those pages. It makes the creative process really, really vital. You don't just want to have your average fly-by-night content that has no element of virality to it. You want to think of ways you can make visual, engaging content that's going to educate and inform, and most of all, be something that someone's going to want to share. Is it helpful as a utility? Is it funny? Is it to some degree shocking? Those are the types of things you want to think of when you're creating your content. And then lastly, in terms of the trends that we just talked about, is that foundational component of HTML and how we're seeing it be as important as ever. Your core HTML is still vital with metadata, URLs, interlinking. And make sure that you monitor this information in Google Webmaster Tools, or Search Console as it's now called, where you can really see your trending as it relates to your metadata errors, your indexation errors, and how your 401 or 301 redirects are going through, those sorts of things. All right, now that you have an idea of the trends, let's talk about where to focus. Now, what are some things that you want to concentrate on to make sure you're putting your best foot forward in organic search? The first focus you want to approach is, how are you being crawled? Googlebot digests your site, and your SEO performance starts there. You want to make sure that you make the job as easy as possible, and in doing so, you'll be rewarded. In using a combination of Google Search Console and external crawling tools, you can get an updated state as it relates to your pages to see how you're performing. So look at your average pages crawled per day and look at your traffic. In this example you're looking at, you see a dip there. If you see a correlated dip in your analytics, and this is a key component of where you want to improve. You also want to look at your index footprint. This is the number of pages that you have in Google Search Index. And when you have index bloat, extra pages in the index that are essentially duplicates, this is going to really hurt you and limit ranking ability. This is prevalent again in e-commerce, and in best practices to try to limit duplication by using what's called a canonical tag and also using other tactics to identify and rectify the situation within Search Console of Google. In talking about duplicates, this frequently happens from what's called attribute filters, and this can lead up to 100 versions of a single category page. And also parameters related to campaigns can cause these issues, as well as lowercase and uppercase. And to, again, fix this, you want to make sure you have some type of canonicalization in your site that tells Google which version is the version that you want to utilize. Next thing you want to focus on within your SEO area of tasks is, do we make our site easy? Now, how easy is it for Google and for web users to utilize? You want to eliminate broken links. We want to get rid of out-of-date pages, fix any redirect loops that are serving as what we call crawler traps. This is when Google's robot goes to your site and essentially gets lost and can't get out of the pattern that it's fallen into. And then also, use Peek, which is a great free tool for user testing that will enable you to have real-life user feedback on how easy is your site to find what you're looking for and to navigate. Again, this is another where to focus. Do we deliver a good user experience? You want to measure each step in your buying process or your transactional funnel and look at the progression rates. If you're not progressing at levels that you think are standard or should be achieved, you're not delivering a good user experience. And the streams have crossed. SEO and UX are now so intertwined that you have to focus on this piece of the business as much as anything else if you want to improve your overall content absorption. Speed. Speed is really, really crucial and an area that is going to impact overall SEO. And an algorithm update called Caffeine a few years ago changed the game with speed and made speed more paramount to Google. Use the Google tools themselves. It's called Page Speed Insights to identify your overall speed issues, both in a mobile environment and a desktop environment. And I also highly recommend a great tool called webpagetest.org as a way to identify any issues with caching, with your content delivery network, and other server-side factors which really impact speed. How do you publish? Another key question to ask when you're thinking about where to focus. And really, SEO professionals have stated that content creation is the most impactful tactic. This came from some recent research. And because of that, every brand needs to be a publisher. I don't care what industry you are in, there is something you can write about, something you can take a stance on, something you can convey from an educational standpoint to deliver value. And if you are in the product space, if you have products, you want to make sure that these product content is unique. It can't be delivered from your manufacturer. If it is, then you're not going to do as well as you could in organic search. You want to create guides, you want to create videos, you want to try and get reviews, and also create question type content that will be rendered predominantly in voice search. Now we know voice search is now approximately, I think it's almost 30 to 40% of Google queries, especially on mobile devices. So it's something that, FAQ pages, question type content is also really, really powerful to help Google route, someone's voice query to your content. How do you communicate? If you're not on social channels each day with some type of communications to your audience, you're definitely missing an opportunity, and it doesn't take that long. Now, because of the lines of blurred, again, as they did with UX, they also do with social and SEO. You need to have a presence on the big ones. Use a tool like Feedly to comment and share relevant developments and statistics in your industry, and start building an audience and building further awareness by boosting your posts in the Facebook community using their demographic engine. Creating great content is very, very important, but it's only half the battle. The other side of that coin, and where you need to focus as well, is amplifying your content, going out and promoting. You need to reach out and do traditional outreach to influencers to introduce your content as a value-added component to their readership and to drive editorial linking to your pages. This is a key aspect of Google's algorithm that, again, has been reduced somewhat in recent years, but still it's really important for folks that are looking to drive growth and are in the middle market as well. How are you using your data? You really want to unlock the clues for SEO growth with your data and start with Search Console, as we talked about earlier. You want to then, from there, when you get identification in Search Console of what the opportunities are, then move to your analytics and look at your landing page trending, your traffic trending, your penetration data to see how that story tells out. How are you doing? Where could you do better? And you also want to create appropriate target clusters for interlinking. What are the different silos you're going to target, and then the sub-silos in that silo? What content maps for each one of those queries? And you want to be proactive to link to those pages from other sections of the site where it makes the most sense. Let's talk about tech. Building the technical foundation is going to be really important for your next level of SEO performance, and we're going to go through the real key pieces now. It starts with your servers. Server headers are vital to SEO, and you need to understand the classification differences between a 301 redirect, permanent, and a 302 redirect, which is temporary. You do not want your development servers being crawled. This is really important. When your development servers somehow get found in Google, let's say they're not password protected or they're identified via the Chrome browser, and they get crawled and they're on your domain, it will be a disaster to your SEO performance. So you need to make sure you avoid your development servers being crawled and you use 301 redirects when you change a page location or when you migrate to a new system. The next area of technical foundation is your architecture, and this is really the skeleton of your site. How is the categories broken down from a category standpoint, subcategory, family page, product page? You really want to have a horizontal approach versus vertical, and don't force the crawler to keep crawling down the Discover pages. One key factor that we think is very important is use the right naming conventions within your navigation. When you're conducting your keyword research and identifying what are the most prominent phrases for which consumers use in our category, name your categories with that same nomenclature. That's going to really help your brand map to the most search queries in the Google search engine. You also want to use what's called structured data, and this is otherwise known as the semantic web. It's a more easier way to tell Google what a page is all about using predefined syntax and data formats. They're essentially snippets of code to help Google in understanding and classifying content. The most popular is called schema.org, and it creates these rich listings that you can also test within Google's own markup testing tool that they provide. But definitely, if you're in e-commerce, schema.org and product level structured data is something you really should do. The technical foundation of mobile development is also extremely important. Now, we recommend a responsive design, to have one core set of URLs to be crawled and indexed. And in April of 2015, Google actually penalized sites that did not deploy mobile-friendly sites. So you want to make sure that your site has a responsive design or an M.dot site that's going to give a good mobile experience. Staging sites. As I said earlier, it's really important to not have a development environment get crawled. Now, and this is showing a Google Analytics of a client that we worked with that had a non-password protected staging site be crawled and then fixed from us. This shows a 50% reduction when the development server gets indexed, and then once we get on board, get the 301 redirects across the site, you can see the traffic restores to its previous state. Robots and no index. These are technical directives that really help Google to understand what not to index. Really important because not everything in your site you're going to want to desire to have in Google and are also going to add value to a search in a query. And you start out with robots.txt. This is a file on your website server that eliminates directories from being crawled. So if you have superfluous directories that really are being used from a development standpoint, or maybe your checkout process, you don't want these pages crawled. There's no value there. You use a robots.txt to block search engines from indexing them. And no index is a different type of tactic. It's a directive within your code that instructs Googlebot not to crawl on an individual page. So if this is a specific page that you no longer want to be presented to folks on Google, this is where you would work to integrate. Parameter exclusion. Really, really important for e-commerce and e-commerce systems. These types of systems are notorious for, as I said before, creating search bloat, where you have millions of pages for a company that might only have, let's say, 10,000 SKUs being offered. To fix this, you want to get that number down to have a more one-to-one ratio from a standpoint of products to pages index. You use parameter exclusion, and in this case, you're trying to reduce the number of pages that are just the duplicates with these parameters. The URLs might be dynamic, but they lead to hundreds of duplicates for a page. So you go in here and you limit the crawling on pages that have these parameters, and really can get your indexation much more in line. And again, this is in the Google Search Console. Another key concept within your technical foundation of knowledge should be around 301 redirects, and they should be used when a page no longer exists. They're critical for outdated products, e-commerce migrations, and really transfers and link equity when you're moving a page. When you do a migration from an e-commerce system to a newer e-commerce system, or from a existing CMS like WordPress to something like Sitecore, it's really critical that you have a redirect map, a complete plan and framework for page A is going to map to page B, complete with the URLs that are going to be there and the 301 redirect, to make sure you're giving Google exact specifications on what you need transferred. The Prev next tag, another key aspect of technical foundation in SEO, and this tag really helps Google in grouping sets of products. It addresses indexation challenges, and it's also vital to utilize in categories with thousands of products where users have to sometimes keep scrolling through. Well, basically this is saying to Google, hey, all these pages are interrelated, show them together. Dynamic sitemaps. Sitemaps are really important. And the format of sitemap you want to have is what's called an XML sitemap. XML is just a format of data, and that's what you're seeing there on the slide on the right. And it helps ensure more complete crawls. A couple things to consider, though, is that number one, you can only have a maximum of 50,000 URLs within a sitemap. Most of the times, these sitemaps are created automatically by your e-commerce platform or content management system and are logically stored in a format. But the key is point to Google in the right location. You have to tell Google where your sitemap file is and get that connection. And typically this is done in Search Console. And also a better approach is to have what we call a dynamic sitemap, so that when a new product is published, when a new article is written, that automatically gets added to the sitemap dynamically, so there's less manual work for you and your SEO team. Let's talk about some pitfalls to avoid. These are the things that you want to make sure that you are aware of and addressing as you're looking to improve your SEO to make sure you don't make mistakes. First, the first pitfall is, like I said before, a migration mess. Platform migrations represent tremendous risk. If you follow a structured framework and you're trying to reduce your traffic loss by doing the proper processes, I would say typically 10 to 20% immediate loss, but it comes back over time. But when you do this in a wrong capacity, when you don't do a redirect map and you just flip a switch and without a deep review and staging into the code until it's how it's performing, you're going to really have some ugly numbers and could see 80 to 100% loss. I've seen it before. And again, the biggest factor is to properly redirect your pages and incorporate the right technical directives for Google and the migration. But another last point here is give it time. I would say at least 1 to 2 months to let the index shake out to see where your numbers are going to truly lie. The next pitfall to avoid is massive index bloat, and this happens again with page variations and duplications, and this can cause wide ranking issues on a macro scale. You're diluting your products and categories, and to figure this out, you want to look at your site from a standpoint of indexation in a category. You want to use the site : operator in Google to figure out and see how many pages are actually indexed for this category and how many products and subcategories are there. When you do that exercise and get track of that, you'll probably see, if you do have a problem, massive numbers, and then you'll know that you're going to have to follow some of the rectification approaches that were discussed earlier to get this fixed. Page blocking, and we see this all the time. This is the next pitfall, and not all programmers understand SEO, and we have witnessed many times just pages being blocked, site sections being blocked, and within refreshes or deployments of some sort, tags. complete site sections are eliminated from indexation because they're blocked inadvertently by code from an internal developer. So if you see a massive loss within your traffic, start here to make sure that your key pages are indexed and nothing internally has blocked certain sections of your site from being crawled and rendered. Non-classification, the next pitfall to avoid. This is the good old fundamentals, as I call them in SEO. It's titles, descriptions, headers, and alt tags. They're still very vital, and you use this on every page. Every page should theoretically have unique information, and you can do this at scale. Even if you have 500,000 products, you can create unique titles, unique descriptions, unique headers, and unique alt tags by using what's called concatenation schemas that construct this at scale using a programmatic approach based upon breadcrumb data and product data. Duplicate URLs, very much a culprit to causing issues from a duplicate content standpoint. And you want to look for these duplicate URLs, and sometimes they exist and you don't even know. Slashes, uppercase and lowercase characters. You can see on the right I have a variety of examples of home pages that we've seen, and in all these instances you want to use what's called a canonical tag to tell Google this is the predominant URL we want. Another pitfall to avoid is publishing off domain. Too many brands are creating blogs that are on blog.yoursite.com or even somewhere else, like let's say on medium.com, and this is not the approach you want to take. Every brand needs to be a publisher on your own domain. You don't want a vanity URL. You want to make sure it's on your domain so you get the maximum content value when it's published, when it's shared, when you get an inbound links, and also when you create page rank by publishing. Another pitfall to avoid is automated page generation, and we see this a lot in the e-commerce space. There's some systems and products out there that are really automating publishing, and it's a very, very slippery slope. If you're doing this, if you're utilizing these types of tools, be very careful because you need to have a line of defense of human intervention, because if Google sees too much junk that's being created automatically from your domain, they could likely penalize on a macro scale, not just those pages and those categories, but the overall site in general. Now let's talk about a daily routine. We've gone through trends and topics from a technical standpoint, some pitfalls to avoid. How are you going to structure your day and your execution to maximize SEO? The first thing you're going to do each day is a diagnostic check, really making sure a site has the right levels of performance, and use a dashboard app to simplify and make this easy. Pull in uptime data, responsiveness, crawl reporting, Google Analytics information, SEMrush data, ranking data. Really it's endless. And there's a lot of great tools. The one that I really like is a platform called Cyphe, C-Y-F-E, and that can give you visibility into this stuff on a snapshot basis each day. There's Cyphe in a quick visualization of them, and again, this is showing conversions and cost and revenue, but you can do this across the parameters, and it's pretty much undefined. You also, in your daily routine, want to look at your top landing pages. You want to see each day how Google is serving your domain. In an environment that no longer passes keyword data, i.e. Google Analytics, your best source of intelligence is your landing pages. So cross-referencing your landing page data with your ranking data will help you in isolating your targets and really laying out your plan of attack for that given week, month, or quarter. You also, in your daily routine, want to look at what I call SERP macro analysis, search engine result placements macro analysis. You want to look at the competition within your head terms as a clear indicator to see what's working. If you're seeing fluctuations on first page or big jumps from your competitors, you're going to want to monitor their link profile, their page count, their content they're creating to get new ideas. Because if you're seeing those movements, that's ultimately what they're doing is working in Google, and you want to benchmark that to some degree, and spending even just 15 to 20 minutes each day and looking at competitive analysis will really help your SEO performance. Also, within your daily routine, you want to execute what we call target clusters. This is using a reverse indexing tool to provide the entire search landscape from pages 1 through 10. There's a lot of tools out there, but you want to sort by rankings and volume and utilize APIs from these tools so you have a new focus of pages and keywords to impact. And this is, again, all going to be valued upon the volume that exists within these target clusters. You also want to do a daily routine of industry curation, understanding that content marketing idea generation is paramount. And we want to get a pulse on everything that's going on, all the data, and really show our authority in social channels and within other types of amplification activity by displaying authority, by taking a stance on what's going on. And use RSS readers like Feedly to monitor new developments and use tagging rules to route this to different people on your team so you get that process of creating content and building an audience. Influencer promotion. This should also really be part of your daily routine. Going out and taking your best stuff. What is the most valuable and useful utility content that you have? Go out and try to share it in a public relations type format. Reach out to editors, reach out to influencers, reach out to people that are outside of your four walls to introduce yourself and try to build a relationship that's going to get you impact from these influencer outlets as well as individuals. And then again, anything you publish needs to be amplified on social. It should be boosted on Facebook for more activity, and it's still very inexpensive and will drive incremental likes at low cost, leading to increased social signals. All right, so there you have it. That was a laundry list of different factors and aspects to consider when you're looking to improve SEO. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for the time. We really believe that every business can improve through data-driven optimization and organic search improvements. So we can help you in SEO being the rock star of your marketing mix. If you're interested in a custom SEO evaluation, speaking with myself over the phone for a 30-minute period, this is for free for any qualifying retailer or brand. Please request this either at info@trinityinsight.com, that email address right there on the screen, or by emailing me directly or clicking below at csmith@trinityinsight.com. Thanks so much. Have a great day. We look forward to hopefully speaking with you and seeing you soon in an upcoming video.